There are moments when you see a car that stops you cold. Not because it's the fastest or loudest, but because something about it feels alive. And then one day, it's gone. No one remembers it. No fan clubs, no posters, no legacy. The 1990s were a decade overflowing with brilliance. A time when manufacturers took risks, experimented, dreamed, and sometimes failed. But among those failures were machines so far ahead of their time, the world just wasn't ready to understand them. This isn't a list of bestsellers or icons. It's a resurrection of the forgotten. The bold, the strange, the brilliant misfits that deserved better. You're watching The Gear Age, and these are 10 forgotten cars from the 1990s that were actually brilliant. Before we begin, tell me this. What's the one 90s car you think never got the respect it deserved? Drop your pick in the comments and subscribe to The Gear Age. Because what you're about to see might make you question why some of the best cars of their time vanished without a trace. 10. Isuzu VehiCROSS. The SUV that time couldn't understand. Imagine walking into a showroom in 1997 and seeing this thing. Huge wheel arches, armor-plated panels, and headlights that looked like the eyes of a robot. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't normal. It looked like a prototype that accidentally escaped a design studio. But underneath that chaos was genius. The Isuzu VehiCROSS was one of the most advanced SUVs ever built. Its four-wheel drive system used sensors to anticipate traction loss. Before it happened, something you wouldn't see again until Land Rover. And Audi started bragging about predictive drive systems decades later. Its suspension used Formula One grade monotube shocks, built by the same supplier that made dampers for race cars. It had a torque-on-demand system that could adapt in real time to mud, sand, snow, whatever the world threw at it. It was powerful, compact, unstoppable, and yet totally misunderstood. Only about 6,000 were ever made. It was too weird for the mainstream, too expensive for off-roaders, and too advanced for its own time. Today, it's a cult icon. Find one, and you'll find an owner who talks about it, like it's a living thing. Because for a moment, Isuzu built something fearless. And the world simply blinked and missed it. 9. Mazda Millenia, the luxury brand that never was. Mazda didn't just want to make cars in the 90s. They wanted to make statements. The Mazda Millenia was supposed to launch under Mazda's new luxury division, Amati, a name meant to rival Lexus, Acura, Infiniti. But before it could even take its first breath, the Japanese economy collapsed. Amati was dead before it was born. Mazda had a masterpiece and no home for it. So they stuck their regular badge on it and hoped people wouldn't notice. The result was a luxury car trapped in the body of a mid-range brand. Under the hood, a Miller Cycle V6, a rare engineering marvel that used a unique compression cycle to deliver smooth power and high efficiency. It was ahead of its time, so far ahead that most mechanics didn't even understand how it worked. The Millenia had solar ventilation panels, a GPS navigation system when everyone else still used atlases, and torque-canceling front suspension. That made torque steer vanish like a magician's trick. Inside, it was a world apart. Rich leather, real wood, gentle curves, and quiet restraint. You could mistake it for an Audi if you didn't see the badge. But the badge was the problem. People didn't want to spend $35,000 on a Mazda. Dealers didn't know how to sell it. And so, this brilliant car was quietly forgotten. A luxury brand's dream sealed inside a mid-market nameplate. Today, the Millenia stands as a ghost of what could have been. Proof that Mazda could build a luxury car. Good enough to scare the Germans, if only they had the courage to call it something else. 8. Eagle Talon T. SIAWD. The Forgotten Twin. Every car enthusiast remembers the Mitsubishi Eclipse. Pop culture made sure of that. But its twin, the Eagle Talon TSIAWD, faded into oblivion. Built in the same factory with the same turbocharged 4G63 engine, it was an all-wheel drive monster disguised as a commuter coupe. 0 to 60 in under 6 seconds. Cheaper than a BMW M3. And with a few simple modifications, it could double its power and devour anything on the street. The Talon was raw, violent, and brilliant. The steering talked back. The turbo hissed like a serpent coiled under the hood. It was every bit as good as the Eclipse, and in some ways, better. But Eagle, as a brand, was doomed. A forgotten badge born from Chrysler's confusion. Dealers couldn't explain what it was. Buyers didn't know who made it. And when Chrysler pulled the plug, the Talon vanished overnight. Today, finding one unmodified is nearly impossible. But if you do, you'll be looking at one of the greatest performance bargains of the 1990s. A car that lived fast, died young, and deserved a far louder farewell. 7. Volkswagen Corrado. FEV R6. The one that sounded like a symphony. If the 90s had a soundtrack, the Volkswagen Corrado 5R6 might have been one of its purest notes. That narrow-angle V6 engine. Deep, smooth, mechanical music. It wasn't just sound, it was emotion. The Corrado was Volkswagen's precision experiment. A car engineered to prove that they could build something. That handled as well as a BMW, but felt more alive. Every review praised it. Perfect steering, perfect brakes, perfect balance. The rear spoiler even lifted automatically at speed, decades before Porsche made it fashionable. But perfection costs money. And by the time buyers were done adding options, the Corrado cost as much as a BMW 3 Series. And most people chose the badge over the brilliance. Less than 100,000 Corrados were built. Only 18,000 reached America. But those who know still talk about it, with the reverence usually reserved for art. Because that's what it was. A driving sculpture that nobody bought and everyone now wishes they had. 6. Merkur XR4 Ti, the misfit genius. The name alone doomed it. Merkur XR4 Ti. It sounded like a password, not a car. In reality, it was a European Ford Sierra XR4i, a touring car hero rebadged and imported to America. Ford thought Americans wouldn't buy a sporty Ford, so they gave it a fake brand name, Merkur, and sold it through Lincoln Mercury dealers. They were wrong, spectacularly. Underneath that strange marketing disaster was an incredible machine. Rear-wheel drive, turbocharged 2.3-liter engine, independent suspension, and steering that made German sedans nervous. It was light, balanced, communicative. A car that wanted to dance rather than cruise. But its name, styling, and mystery badge killed it. People didn't know what it was. Dealers didn't care. By 1989, it was gone. But the few who owned them knew. They knew this wasn't a mistake. It was a secret masterpiece. A Ford so good, they had to hide its name. 5. Chrysler LHS, the American future that never arrived. The Chrysler LHS looked like it had driven straight out of tomorrow. Smooth, aerodynamic, long, and low. The perfect symbol of Chrysler's cab-forward revolution. The design moved the wheels outward and the cabin forward, creating more space and a futuristic stance. It wasn't just different, it was beautifully different. Inside, it felt like American luxury reborn. Soft leather, wood inlays, digital gauges, and a feature called Auto Stick. A semi-manual mode long before paddle shifters were cool. It rode softly but handled confidently, with a 3.5-liter V6 and a smart adaptive transmission. That learned how you drove. It was innovation wrapped in ambition. But buyers didn't care. They didn't trust Chrysler to build luxury. And so, one of the most forward-thinking sedans of its time was left to rot in used lots and memory. Yet, for those who remember, The LHS was proof that even in the 90s, American engineers still dared to dream big. 4. Subaru SVX, the glass canopy dream. The Subaru SVX didn't look like a car. It looked like something from a science fiction movie. Designed by Giorgetto Giugiaro, it had a canopy-style roof with split windows, a 3.3-liter flat-six boxer engine, and an interior that felt like a jet cockpit. Every button clicked like a spaceship control. Every surface screamed precision. It was luxurious, strange, elegant, and completely wrong for Subaru's market. In 1991, the brand was known for rugged wagons and practical buyers. The SVX, with its $40,000 price tag, confused everyone. It wasn't a sports car, it wasn't a grand tourer. It was somewhere in between, a marvel without a market. Only about 14,000 made it to the US. But its technology lived on. Its AWD system inspired future WRXS. Its engine became the basis for Subaru's later six-cylinders. The SVX was a failure that paved the road for future success. A forgotten beauty that carried Subaru's DNA into the next generation. 3. Oldsmobile Aurora, the final elegy. The Aurora was more than a car. It was a cry for survival. Oldsmobile's engineers built it from the ground up. Sleek, aerodynamic, powerful, with a North Star-derived V8 that purred like silk. The interior was pure modernism and no chrome, no fake wood. Just sculpted lines, fine leather, and quiet confidence. It was supposed to save Oldsmobile, but by the time it arrived, the brand's audience had already left. The Aurora was too good for the people who still cared about Oldsmobile, and too branded for the people who might have loved it. It drove like a dream. Stiff chassis, excellent steering, and a sense of quality that surprised everyone who gave it a chance. But it wasn't enough. By 2004, the nameplate was gone, and with it, one of America's most storied marques. Still, if you drive an Aurora today, you can feel it. That defiant heartbeat. The moment a dying company remembered. How to build something extraordinary. 2. Renault Sport Spider, the car that laughed at comfort. No roof, no windows, no excuses. The Renault Sport Spider was a rebellion on wheels. Built from aluminum and fiberglass, it was light as air, loud as thunder, and so raw it made a go-kart look civilized. You didn't sit in it, you strapped onto it. There was no power steering, no ABS, no radio, no heater. Just you, a 2.0-liter engine screaming behind your head, and the kind of steering feel that modern cars will never replicate. It was a weapon for purists, a car that existed just to remind the world what driving really means. Only 1,800 were made. Most never left Europe, but every single one was a middle finger to everything boring and predictable about the industry. It wasn't practical. It wasn't profitable. It was perfect. 1. Lancia Delta Integrale, the Forgotten King. 6 consecutive world championships. 46 rally wins. One car that made the world take notice, and then disappeared. The Lancia Delta Integrale wasn't a car. It was an animal. A snarling turbocharged beast bred for rally warfare. Its 2.0-liter turbo engine spat fire through all 4 wheels, and its all-wheel drive system was pure sorcery. Steering so alive it felt human. Handling so precise it seemed psychic. This was a car that didn't just drive, it performed. Every flick of the throttle was theater. Every shift, a gunshot. Every corner, an act of violence and beauty intertwined. But Lancia never brought it to America. They pulled out of the market, and the greatest driver's car of its time became a legend the US never got to meet. Today, pristine Delta Integrales are worth small fortunes. And when you drive one, you understand why. It isn't just fast, it's alive. Now your turn. Which one of these forgotten legends do you wish you could bring back? Tell me in the comments below, and make sure you're subscribed to The Gear Age, where machines like these never truly die. They just wait for someone to remember them, because every era leaves ghosts behind. And sometimes those ghosts have engines. Those ghosts have engines. Those ghosts